Hello, friends, family, and everyone in between. Welcome to the first episode of the Feel Good Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mike Osgood.
And I am another one of your hosts, Byron Filler.
And we are here today to bring you some great conversations with some great people, asking them what makes them tick, what makes them feel good, and what's the good that they put out in the world. And you have us, two 30-year-old white guys just trying to learn a little bit more about the world and educate ourselves in a wide variety of topics and things that typically might make some people a little bit uncomfortable, but we want to learn. And that's what we are here to do.
That's the most important thing for me is like we're coming into this as a learning experience.
Absolutely. We have, just so everybody knows a little bit of why we are doing this, Byron and I are future cousin-in-laws. And we've always wanted to do something together. And we finally just kind of found that stars aligning moment of, hey, bro, you want to start a podcast?
You had me at hey.
Beautiful. And we decided that we didn't want to just do the standard, let's talk about whatever's happening in the day kind of thing. We wanted to make sure that whatever we put out in the world really has kind of that good feeling message. With so much content that's out there that's a little distressing, that's causing you to have those anxious moments, we want to be able to chat with people who are also going through a bunch of different issues that work in a wide variety of different fields and that have incredible stories, and figuring out how they overcame their challenges and how they're able to get to the good parts of life, how they can find that good and then return it and give that good back to the world.
Well, also just like making sure that we're like, we're having, this isn't all just about like, positive mental attitude or like happy, like hunky-dory happiness. Like, no, like doing good things, trying to be happy. These things they're so hard. They take a lot of work. And I think what's important for both Mike and I can definitely speak for myself when I say that we want to make sure that like no one is feeling alone and trying so hard, and that you're hearing from people who have at some point in their life struggled as you may be struggling, dear listener. And that's all we want to do is spread. That's the positivity I feel like we're trying to spread. Spread.
And we have such a wide variety of guests that are going to be coming onto this podcast for at least our first season. We have everybody from Noah Maier, who you're going to hear today, who is a fundraiser extraordinaire, to tarot card readers,
be like musicians, models, like cartoonists, people who work in tech. Like we're trying to get a diverse cast here.
Yes, and we promise you that it's not just going to be these two straight white guys chatting about sports, chatting about whatever.
You like sports?
I dabble in sports. I could talk about sports, but I haven't followed sports in a good bit.
All right.
I watched the Super Bowl.
I mean, I didn't.
If you want to call it a Super Bowl, it was very, very boring.
All right, you're on thin ice, mister.
That's hockey. That's not football. All right, but anywho, we have an incredible first guest for you today. Before we hop into our conversation with Noah, you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter at FeelGoodPod. That's FILL Good Pod.
You can also find us at all of the places that you get your podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I can't even begin to think of all of those other places, but I promise we will not infringe under your rock. If you need that, we'll leave that for you.
We got you. That's the biggest thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But enough of us chit-chatting here. Let's go chat with Noah Maier. I don't want to hold on to my butt.
You should definitely hold on to your butt. I mean, it's more firm than you may give it credit for.
I do squats on a regular basis. That is a thing. I love you all. May we go into whatever this is with positivity and a whole lot of fucking shenanigans. Sound good?
Mostly shenanigans.
Mostly shenanigans. All right. So we are here with our first ever Feel Good podcast guest. We have the man, the myth, the adventure buddy, Noah Maier. Noah,
Yo.
You're such a beautiful face to see. How are you?
Mr. Osgood, I'm so well. How are you, sir?
I am good. And then we also have Byron here as well.
Hello.
I was going to say, I think the last time the three of us chatted was over my least favorite game of Monopoly I've ever played.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think, Noah, you went to bed and Caden was basically cackling at Mike the rest of the night while my fiance drove Mike to madness.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I've never stuffed my head into a pillow as hard as I have. And that night, after you somehow like mind melded them into being your puppets in a Monopoly game, and that was real tough for me to get over. So I'm still gonna hold it to you today, but we are incredibly thankful to have you here today to be our first ever guest on the Feel Good podcast. So Noah, for those of whom don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us about your background, and just chat through it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor and a privilege to be here on the Feel Good podcast. My name is Noah, born in Georgia, bounced around the country, wound up in California for a little while, and just recently moved back to Georgia. I am a very silly person who tends not to take myself too seriously. The day job is fundraising, usually for politics and nonprofits. And in my free time, I usually either watch Netflix or fall asleep.
That is very healthy. Some people tend to do far worse things with their free time, such as myself.
I was going to say far worse things with Netflix and falling asleep.
That too. But no,
so I want to make sure your audience knows that you got a really exciting first guest, somebody who watches Netflix and falls asleep. And I hope that provides you plenty of content for this podcast.
You want to know what?
As long as you can tell us what happened in Stranger Things and just ruin it for everyone, that'd be great.
No question, I could do it. If there's an episode called The Red Wedding and they all die at the end.
Perfect.
It's really wild. Yeah, just hang on to your hats.
Sorry, everybody. We spoiled Stranger Things. That's a podcast.
But I feel like you're being too incredibly humble about you and everything that you have done and all the stuff that you continue to do. But before...
I was actually gonna say, Mike, like we were talking about this earlier, like because we asked guests for some notes a little bit about you, and the first thing I said to Mike was like, he's really modest. This is just. So we'll get more into it, but that was my first impression without having talked to you.
Well, here, I tell you, I can read you the official bio if you're looking for a
No. We're going to get more into it in a little bit.
All right, good.
But before we get into that, what we here at the Feel Good podcast love to do is that before we start talking about all the good, we want to get rid of the bad. You cannot talk about the good unless you also acknowledge the bad. So
just gotta flush it out.
So we are going to do our moment of bad. And what we like to do is we like to take about 60 seconds to just yell out. We'll go one by one and yell out one thing that is just bad in the past week. What we'll do is, since you are our first honorary guest, Noah, just let us know one thing that's been bad this past week.
My oven's not working.
You want to know what's been bad in my week? Useless notifications from apps. Terrible.
Let's see. For me, it is windy in LA and my nose is murdering my face.
What else is bad with you, Noah?
My back hurts. Like I slept on it weird.
That sucks. I am so sorry. Want to know what else is bad in my neighborhood? Really bad weather forecasting. Trying to make plans and they just go to shit. It happens.
Sia was discriminating actors who have autism on Twitter.
Wow.
That sucked.
That's not good. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Noah, what is your one last bad thing? Just let it out.
Yeah, for sure. The moving company stole my furniture, and I don't know where it is, and it's been a couple months now, so I'd really like to have it back.
Well, I think you win.
Yeah, I definitely don't have anything else that is as bad as that. Do you want to call them out on here? And then what we'll do is we can utilize the feel good. I'm trying to think of what we'll call
ethos.
our feel good fans to go out and push them to return your furniture.
I mean, at this point, we're just getting police and lawyers involved, but feel free to leave New City Moving a 1-star review if you're feeling motivated.
Oh, man.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, for sure. New City Moving. And the new city they should move to is Hades.
Their Yelp page is about to get torched.
Thank you for sort of doing that cathartic release of the bad. But now we want to chat about all things Noah Maier. Noah, as you mentioned earlier, we know that you are a political fundraiser, that you are sort of the master of collecting funds from people to donate to causes. What made you start doing that?
Oh, man. I met a guy at a conference who wanted to run for office. I was in college and I was in a session called How to Get a Job After College, which seemed pertinent to my life at the time. It was a really boring session, so I walked next door, and the session next door was how to get elected to public office. And I said, well, I never want to do that, but it's got to be more interesting than the session I just left.
I mean, it sounds like a party.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, hopped in, met a guy in that session. We kind of made fun of the presenters together. And afterwards he said, hey, I'm running for office. Do you want to come work for me? I said, yeah, for sure. Because I'm 19 and I'd say yes to anything that somebody offers me. And yeah, the rest is history. I've been working in politics or in nonprofits in some capacity ever since.
That is great. Did everybody there wear khakis? Was that a thing? Or
there's a lot of khakis for sure.
I'm just trying to imagine the most boringest thing that can make you leave, because I know you. I know that sometimes you do like some dry things. And I'm just trying to picture what goes.
Khakis are pretty dry.
They are pretty dry. So you, just for people to know, like some of the things that you have done, you have worked with the ACLU. You have worked for such viral fundraising hits like the Defeat by Tweet initiative. And also now you currently started your own fundraising company, the Maier Anderson. Like, how does it feel to be a part of like such big changes?
Terrifying. Yeah. Every day I wake up scared, and then I work hard enough to not be scared anymore. And then I go to bed and confront my own existential doom, and then wake up again and do it again. No, it's, yeah. No, there's nothing. We're doing all sorts of really, really cool stuff right now. And there's just amazing people working on amazing projects, and fundraising is the way we give them the freedom to make change. This, the way that the differences are made in the world, for better or for worse, it often has to do with money. And when you have a little bit more money, you can focus on actually making the difference you want to make. So we get to do that for all sorts of crazy people. Defeat by Tweet, One for Democracy, Sage Institute out of Berkeley, a couple really cool political campaigns right now. Just all sorts of fun stuff.
What do you think is like working for these organizations in terms of like turning maybe this is oversimplifying it, like turning money into like an effective message as opposed to just like throwing money at it until it works?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have the easiest job in the world in a lot of ways, because my competition is things like, buying your next vacation house or buying a sports car. And I get to say, hey, instead of those things which will bring you temporary happiness, how about you make a difference in the world? And it's an easy sell. So I get to do that over and over and over again to donors. And then I also get to help, nonprofits, political campaigns, et cetera, figure out a system that works for them so they can do that repeatedly over and over again and get themselves situated that way.
That's great and everything. Like, you're going out and you're literally working to make this change. What about that work is keeping you up at night? Like, why is that terrifying you?
It's hard to run a business. Because now I'm responsible for, like, I have 9 people working for me right now. And so I'm responsible for 9 people's ability to feed their families. And that's really, really tricky. Because it's not just me. Like, if it's me making a stupid boneheaded decision, then it's, it's just Noah being Noah. But if it's me making a stupid boneheaded decision or saying the wrong thing to somebody, and then all of a sudden 9 people can't eat anymore, well, it's a whole different kind of pressure. That, coupled with the fact that now that I'm a little bit more advanced in my career, we're working on projects that make a difference nationally. And projects that make a difference nationally also make a difference globally. And we're doing infrastructure things that, if we don't do them well, win or lose elections and affect real people's lives. So yeah, it is terrifying. But the thoughts that keep me up at night are largely like, you don't deserve this. Why are you here? Very much imposter syndrome type stuff.
Yeah.
And then also like just, I think the difficulties of anybody running the business of any kind, it doesn't matter if you're manufacturing soap, like you have this same kind of pressure. It's difficult. But like, woe is me, cry me a river. I also have a really amazing job that I love, and I get to go to work every day and do awesome shit every day. So I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's such a mixed thing. I can imagine there's like so much pressure there. Do you think there's like at least on a day-to-day basis a little camaraderie you can find with your with the people who work for you, so that like it just makes that fear a little bit easier to face?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And politics, nonprofits is less so. But politics especially, we are one giant fraternity. People who work on political campaigns, we have a level of understanding that very few other people have in other professions, because we've seen the same kind of wacky things. So I'm actually very close with political operatives, consultants, things like that, all over the country. Who I can text at 3 a.m. and be like, hey, like, the world is crazy today. And they're like, oh, yeah. My world was crazy yesterday. Let's talk about it.
Just hay you up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a very interesting thing. And I think a lot of people in your audience will have been a part of this in some capacity. But once you worked as a paid staff for a political campaign, weird doors are open to you that wouldn't otherwise be open to you. Even if you had the worst political job in the world, the fact that you have worked in politics means that I can make a lot of assumptions about, your work ethic, your ability to handle chaos, your flexibility in the face of crisis, your ability to keep secrets. A lot of times, there are things that political people can kind of automatically assume about each other, even across the aisle. I'm friends with a lot of really great Republican people because they have that same mindset.
That was going to be my next question for you, was like, this is in American politics, especially, it's sort of a us versus them. And I feel like with a lot of the discussion that recently happened in the election, a lot of it was just like who spent what amount on ads and who raised the most amount of money, so on and so forth. Do you find it in political fundraising? Do you find it to be that kind of arms race of just like who can outspend, who can outgun, who can outsmart? Is it that cutthroat, or does it feel a little bit more friendly on the other side?
It's an interesting question. For sure, it's an arms race. It's an arms race for, I think, reasons that people don't expect. A lot of people have these vision of political fundraising as being like, dark cigar-filled rooms where people are making backdoor deals, and it's almost never like that. It happens very quickly. It happens. Sometimes people are making 300, 400 phone calls a day, and part of my job is to cheerlead them through it. The arms race element of it comes in, especially on campaigns that aren't as publicly known as a presidential.
Yeah,
because polls are very, very expensive. And so there isn't, if you're running for, let's say, state representative, there aren't like polls along the way that are tracking who's winning, who's losing. Usually you do one, maybe. And so the only scorecard you have to see who's winning and who's losing is who's raising the most money. Because that's publicly reported every quarter. For a lot of folks, it's the only measure of their campaign's viability that's publicly reported. Now, that changes a little bit when it comes to presidentials and senates that are well polled. And then it's kind of diminishing returns. You raise as much money as you can to put your name on TV as much as you can. And when you get near the end, if you saturated the TV market, it's more about just making sure that your name exists in people's minds just as much as the other person's name exists in their mind.
I'm sure like social media can easily complicate that, because just that where you're explaining that alone, it just sounds crazy. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah. It can be crazy. I think the best analogy is for those of you who have seen the HBO TV show Veep. That's basically the gist of what it is.
Yeah.
I wish I could say it was like The West Wing, or that it was, even House of Cards. It's just not that well thought out. It's a lot of Veep moments.
I think they did a really smart thing with that show where you never know which party anyone is a part of. I think that really puts some a lot better context into what it is really like on the other side, because I think it's Democrats versus Republicans, and it almost seems like on the other side, like these people do not care about red or blue. They care about their bottom line.
To that, I would say, I think people care deeply about being a Democrat, being a Republican, especially once they're elected.
Sure.
So for me, like dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, it would take a dramatic shift to get me to change to a different party. But remember that it's also for everybody, it's their jobs. So I compare it a lot to playing professional sports. It's in a lot of ways it's sports for like nerdy, ugly people. Yeah.
It does sound like March Madness.
It's not March Madness. It's November insanity, and it's just kind of, it's bonkers in a way.
And you're working, so like it's Red Sox versus Yankees. You are the Red Sox. You're working for the Red Sox. You think the Red Sox are the best team. Anybody who wears a Yankee uniform, you're like, man, this guy. But also you have a respect for the people who are playing baseball at a high level on the other side of the playing field.
I'm pretty sure Boston Red Sox fans would probably say something different, something a little bit more.
But the players wouldn't.
Yeah.
But the players wouldn't. That's important.
Sure.
And this is an important difference too, because in politics we often don't separate the activists from the people who are professionals working in the field. And sometimes those lines are super blurry, like activists who are getting paid to do activism in the field. But there are fans and there are players, and often the fans are drunk with their shirts off at the tailgate, and the players are walking by like, okay, that's great. Calm down just a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah, that's actually a great just kind of segue into another question that we had for you, which was seeing how there's just been this kind of increasing trend of like sort of armchair activism and all this kind of stuff of people being loud and boisterous via social media. Do you see any other trends that are coming into politics as of recently that are sort of like changing the landscape, like something that you and Mayor Anderson are having to like adjust to that one who's listening probably just wouldn't understand or have any insight into?
So luckily, professionally, I'm insulated from a lot of that because fundraising is fairly matter of fact and a little bit separate from the average voter. Most of the people I'm talking to, if they're willing to put $50 or $100 into a campaign, they have a pretty decent political knowledge because their money is hard earned. And the same is true, of course, as you go higher and higher in the dollar amounts. But I do want to touch on your social media question because even though it's not professionally relevant as much, there's two really big problems happening in social media. And they're both going to be really important for us to reckon with in the near future. The first is the online activism that you're talking about. If I see something wrong in the world and then I post about it on social media, the part of my brain that's like, there's something wrong in the world is satiated. So then I'm like, okay, I have done my part about X, Y, and Z thing. It can be really dangerous to have like loud vocal social media uproar, but no actual action being taken. And I would much rather the folks that I talk, at least my friends and family, I would encourage them make less Facebook statuses and write more letters to your congresspeople or, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
less black Instagram posts, like just plain black squares, and more donations to say other Black Lives Matter organizations and fundraisers and things like that. Just
like you were saying, like writing to your congressman or even like getting out onto the streets, even though during this time it is dangerous to do so, but like going out to a
protest.
God, the words are so protest. Thank you.
Just big, massive groups of people. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Make sure whatever action you're taking is an action that could result in real consequences. So, for example, I mentioned my moving truck earlier. I'm not complaining about my moving truck on Facebook. I'm not giving them, I'm not tweeting about them or giving them 1-star Yelp reviews. I'm just going to sue them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to file criminal complaints against them, and I'm going to do things that actually will make a difference to their bottom line. And if I couldn't do that, I wouldn't. So I mean, that's not to say we mentioned like the Black Instagram stars. Like, it's good to build social awareness. That's really, really important. But just know that what you're doing is that, and then do it for a purpose. We're making people socially aware of X, Y, and Z thing in order to serve what purpose. So I think that's important. The other thing that's important, which has been talked about ad nauseum, so I won't get into too many details here, but algorithms are running our lives. And the more that we can separate ourselves from algorithmically driven outrage, the better off and the more healthy we will be. It's contributing to the destruction of institutions as we know them. And I do mean institutions, like all of them. And it's really, really important for us to separate ourselves from the algorithms as much as we can.
That being said, please like and subscribe to Feel Good Podcast. And share this with your friends. Tell your neighbors and everything about this. Because
tell your mom about it. Tell your dad.
Tell your
send
grandma.
them an email. Yeah.
Send it to your niece. She loves hearing about political fundraising. But I think some other shit that we can kind of be related in a way. Noah, we like just kind of doing some further digging on you, and also just because I'm your friend and I know things about you. I know growing up wasn't all that sunshine and rainbows either. And also one of the big fun things I get to brag to people about is that you're the only friend of mine that's ever been in the Rolling Stone magazine. There was this article that was written about just like teens and like homosexuality kind of getting suppressed within communities. And in that article, you discussed just how like the community was kind of pushing you out like you were within this community that you thought was loving and caring, and then the second that you started opening up, just started shutting you in. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky now. I get to be an old gay, right? I'm 30. When I was, God, let's see, 17, I got kicked out of high school for being gay. Grew up in Georgia, went to private school. Yeah, it was incredibly difficult time. And I think there are many people who have a very similar story. Even if it's not getting kicked out of school, it's getting kicked out of your house or getting kicked out of the community, or and certainly I know there's a lot of shunning in religious communities, even today, many years later. Very difficult and certainly formative in how I shaped my early career. There were many campaigns and organizations I worked with, including the ACLU, that were just straight up vengeance driven. I raised the early part of my career. I carried a picture of the principal that kicked me out of school in my wallet. And
Wow.
I didn't throw it away until the day I was working at the ACLU, the day gay marriage got passed nationally. And I threw it away that day. And I was like, all right, I did that.
Damn.
I raised millions and millions of dollars just to stick it to my high school principal. Which is
honestly, I feel like I just heard about why Batman became Batman.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's a hell of an origin story.
Like oh my god, his parents were shot at gunpoint. Like that's where like the turned up to 11 that I feel like we're at now.
Oh, for sure. I was gonna say, my parents are amazing people, which is great. They were super accepting. They remain super accepting. I'm actually at their house right now, recording this. The later part of my career, I had to kind of figure out what motivated me next, and it ended up not being vengeance wasn't as good a motivator as some other things.
What was that motivator for this next phase of your life?
Now it's about teaching. Everything I do is about teaching now. I believe that fundraising is the best way for any one person to make a difference. And even if it's not professional fundraising like I'm doing, even if it's just like having a knowledge of fundraising so you can help people who need it when you come across them, I think it's super important. So I teach people to fundraise. I do that professionally. I do that personally. I do that with the people who work for me and with me. That's what my life at this point is just about teaching.
Well, you've definitely taught me a lot of things, and just over our years of friendship, just a little background history of us. Noah and I are what we like to call adventure buddies. How many adventures have we gone on, Noah? Roughly 2?
I was going to say, I don't think any more than 2, but they were 2 good ones.
They were 2 real good ones. I
mean, that's kind of like in terms of adventures. Like if you have 2 good adventures and they were like, I think more than 12 hours long, you guys got yourself like a damn good adventure.
I would say they weren't 12 hours long, but I would say for Noah has always been sort of that motivational force for me to get out of my comfort zone and just fucking do something. The first adventure that we went on, Noah, and feel free to chime in, we had our significant others part ways from us, and you and I went into downtown San Francisco, and we tried on the most expensive things that we could possibly get our hands on. And I think by the end of the day, we at least tried on $500,000 worth of stuff. Kind of.
We were like, we were teenagers, and our spouses wanted to go shopping, and that sounded boring. So Mike and I did what clever, creative people. And Mike, by the way, I should say right back at you. Mike is my inspiration for so many things in life, but not the least of which is his constant creativity. This was the first time we got to really kind of experience that side of each other, because I'm silly all the time, and Mike's creative all the time. And we were like, let's just go be rich for a day and go to Armani and go to the Rolex store and go do all this stuff and just act like we belonged there.
Yeah.
And I think it was formative for me in a lot of ways, because pretty quickly after that, there were a lot of situations that I found myself in where I had to act like I belonged. I think a lot of people feel that way a lot of times, where they're like, I'm in a situation that's outside of my depth, but I got to just kind of play it cool and pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
And just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, if you walk into the Rolex store with some confidence and say, hey, bachelor party coming up, want to give him a gift, whatever. Hey, they will take you seriously and let you have a great time. And we had a blast.
We went into the Prada store downtown San Francisco, heads held high, looking like two privileged ass white boys walking in, just being like, there's an engagement dinner that we have to go to, and we need to try on suits. And then they just let us put on like $50,000 suits. And it was just kind of eye-opening, because I never would have done anything like that if I didn't have that kind of buddy cop type person on the side. If I didn't have that loose cannon, I wouldn't have done that. Or I also wouldn't have, on our second adventure, just randomly put on suits. We were
not suits.
No, we put on tuxedos. We put on tuxedos. We were both 30, because as 30-year-olds do, right before a pandemic, you throw on tuxedos, you grab Nerf guns, and then you run around downtown San Francisco yelling the 007 theme song.
I'm not ready for this jelly.
You're not ready for this jelly. And then, there's something great about just having those kind of people in your life that really kind of push you to go off and do something new, do something different, that just kind of push you to do that thing that you never thought you would do. And that's one of the main reasons why, Noah, I wanted you on this podcast, is because you have been one of those motivational forces that, you are also a creative force. A lot of people, I don't know if you go out and spout this to people, you're also one of the most musically talented people that I know. This man will pick up a guitar and just start playing anything that comes into his head. Or now you have a nice ass piano in your house that I'm sure that you're just hitting the ivories on. Just knowing all these things that you do and going through all this stuff, kind of tying into this podcast. What are the things at night that just that make you feel good? That after a crazy day at work, after the nonsense of 2020, what are the things that you can go to on a routine basis that don't necessarily make you happy, but what are those things that make you feel good?
Well, first of all, this podcast is absolutely fantastic for my self-esteem.
Woo!
Just very, very happy to be complimented this much. And if you want to just follow me around and do it, I'll pay you lots of money.
Well, you're gorgeous. Just keep being yourself. Just make sure just make sure you're eating. That's all we care. We just want to know that you're eating.
Yeah. That's your Jewish grandmother there.
I know. Everybody in the world needs a good Jewish grandmother.
Named Byron.
Or Byron. Just I'd say two things. There are a few things that make me feel like the world will be okay. I love art. I'm particularly into the abstract expressionists. I also love street art. I love playing music. I love reading. But the two most important things to my personal development and growth and why I am the person I am today, number one, meditation, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I know that it's the trendy thing for white guys with beards to say, but
no, it really, for me, when I haven't meditated lately, but I used to do it that way. It was a application of when I was still doing martial arts, and it is so helpful to learn, and such a useful skill to just learn to control your breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that too. And one of the biggest and best things I could say, just for myself with meditation, is that it has, for me, helped me control my mental state just a little bit more. Going through 2020 like I fortunately had a job, like I had a nice steady relationship at home, and I was fine, but there were still a lot of pressures and a lot of things that were going on that, you know, can still cause some anxiety and everything. And just being able to like unplug and take those couple of seconds to yourself, recalibrate, focus on your breathing, literally zen out for a second. This is the most hippie I've sound in quite some time, but just having that ability to
pass us to the left.
Yeah. No, but having that ability to just relax, or just not necessarily even just relax, just literally take a moment for yourself, is instrumental.
It is time for us to embrace the hippie shit again.
It is.
You know, like living in California for 5 years wrecked me in this capacity because
You're welcome.
But this is real. There's a lot of talk in the world right now about sacred femininity, but there's also sacred masculinity, and it's important for men to take care of themselves. And part of what it means to be a man and take care of yourself is to look at the whole of the world and find the things that work best for you to help you address the really, really, really difficult things that we have in our lives right now. And like you mentioned things like relationships, like for sure that we've all got our own individual stuff, but also collectively we're experiencing like a global pandemic, you know, the corruption of media, the corruption of our social lives and social media, you know, we are experiencing a lot of stuff right now, some of it good, but some of it really dark.
Yeah.
And so what do we do to make sense of all that? What do we do in the face of this existential meaning crisis where we look around and we realize, hey, like we don't really know anything at all about anything?
You want to know what you do? You listen to the Feel Good podcast, like and subscribe, and share it with everybody that you know. Share it with your
sister who loves political fundraising.
Share it with your dog walker.
But that's absolutely the aim here. That's right. I mean, like, Mike, on a serious note, that is absolutely what we talked about when we were starting to talk about this. And like, especially when I've mentioned to like some of my friends and family, like, hey, like, you know, I'm starting a podcast, this is what we're doing. And they've been saying, oh, we need this. And it's also significant. I wanted to touch on like what you said, Noah, is like a sacred masculinity, like men not being afraid to speak about their emotions and feelings. I feel like I personally myself is something I know that that level of emotional intelligence comes really easy to me, but it's not to most men. And I think we can like it. I hope that we can help being a driving force. And like, you know, you don't have to have the skill sets, they help, but it's okay to just like take a look at yourself in the mirror and just compliment yourself.
Yeah.
It's cheesy, but like, do it right now. You have no excuses.
Mike, you got a really good haircut. I'm really happy with it. It's looking nice. It's short. You're shining those curls. They look real great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all the compliments that we need right now. No, I 100% agree with it, that it's not always about like, people aren't always equipped with the skills. And there's this new era of not knowing, which needs to be kind of accepted. We just went through the past 4 years with a leadership that promoted a lot of falsehoods because they had their thoughts. I'm currently putting finger quotes in the air. They had their thoughts and opinions and quote unquote facts that they knew. We're now entering into a new era of people who aren't afraid to say, I don't know, or not afraid to ask for help, learning that that's really like one of the most powerful tools that one could have. I can use, for example, we were ideating this podcast. I called Noah to just be like, hey, I have some ideas. I don't know exactly how to put them together. Like, what do you think? And just kind of asking Noah, like, like just being able to rely and kind of be vulnerable to a friend, to be able to lean on each other to really just be there. And that's literally what we want to try to be for people too, is be that friendly neighborhood, two bearded white guys that they can turn to.
I mean, we don't know everything, but we're trying. But I mean, the other thing too is like, something I'm thinking about just now. Like, isn't that exciting to just be like, I don't know? Isn't there something liberating about just saying that and declaring that?
And you're right. It's thrilling and exciting.
Like not necessarily good or bad, just exciting.
No, it is.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing, I think a lot of people get to the existential moment now that we're, if your basic needs are met and you have some time to sit back and think, it's not hard to get to the existential moment where you're like, where does my finger start and the chair begin? And like, it's not hard to get there. But then the trick is like, once you're there, what do you decide to do with that information? Like once you've had your existential moment and you've tried to make some meaning of it, the Bhagavad Gita talks about Arjuna, who experiences, and he experiences this where he sees the true nature of the universe. And then he has a choice. Does he just give up and go home? Or does he pick up his sword and go back into battle? And I think we all, once we've seen the world for what it is, or as close to what we can conceive of what it is, then we have to make some decisions about what to do with it. And for me, some of those decisions were around teaching people how to fundraise, for sure. But also, a lot of it was about myself. And I learned what it means to be a father. I learned what it means to not, for me, it was important just to wear a t-shirt and jeans every day. Like that's who I am. That's who I want to be. So I stopped getting dressed up for people because I didn't want to anymore. I learned, for me, and I struggled with this for a long time, for a lot of my career, but like, it's okay to love America. It's okay to be super patriotic. It's okay to, love pickup trucks and cowboy boots and like all these things that I really enjoy in my life that aren't necessarily things that the people around me were wanting, or, like boxes that people want me to be in.
That being said, we definitely don't need those alligator skin boots. We don't.
The world definitely.
Those. We don't.
I'm with Noah on this. If you, whatever makes your life festive, just festive the fuck out of it. Just put them on.
Byron, you don't understand these gator skin boots. They are.
I'm.
Noah, it's Monopoly
life's
all
more fun
over
when you're
again.
ignorant.
It's Monopoly all over again. You brainwashed Byron into accepting your boots. As we wrap this up, we are going to be asking all of our guests at the end, what is your future good?
The most important thing that I'm working on right now is national legalization of hallucinogenic drugs like psilocybin. In a therapeutic context, it's game changing for MDMA is game changing for veterans who have PTSD. Psilocybin is game changing for people who are at the end of their life. There are many, many more therapeutic uses. Do them responsibly. Do them in the context of a trained professional. Getting high by yourself in your dorm room is not the same thing as a therapeutic application of very, very serious medicines. However, they will change the world. And that's the single most important thing that I'm working on right now, more than Democrats and Republicans, more than anything.
First, wow, that's a pretty major things to kind of fight for. The battle to have those type of medicines out there and available for veterans, and also just those who, I know there's a lot of uses for helping manage depression and just other sort of mental issues. It's a huge deal. And the fact that we have an ally of someone of your caliber to kind of go out there and kind of, one, harness awareness and also fundraise, it's motivating. And also, like, I know that there are going to be tons of people that have a lot of questions for you. So Noah, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, call me on my cell phone. No, I'm kidding. Take that again.
We'll cut that out. I was going to be like, you are
sorry. Okay.
Noah, how can people get in contact with you?
Check our website, maieranderson.com, MAIERANDERSON.com. If you want to find out how I fundraise, go to maieranderson.com/system. It'll give you a Notion document that we're always working on. It's always under construction. That'll tell you exactly how to fundraise. So you don't have to hire me. You can just go look at what I would do and then do that. Email me, noah@maieranderson.com. Happy to always respond to any inquiries people have, any help people need. Just let me know. Happy to help. Whatever you guys got going on.
And by the way, we're gonna post about this in our stories and stuff later on. So we're gonna have this visually. So all you have to do is copy and paste and be able to get access to all of this very easily.
Yep. So Noah, just from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for being our first guest here.
Dude, really, thank you.
We definitely want to get you on further down the line once we start getting into political madness again. But thank you. And I hope your new home is so great. I hope it's good for you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys and what you're doing.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We love you. And yeah.
Kisses.
Mwah.
Kisses.
The feeling is very mutual. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. That was amazing. I got goosebumps.
You do have
all
goosebumps.
of the goosebumps. Thank you, Noah, for coming on the podcast. I mean,
honorary first guest.
Some
people get Tom Hanks. Some people get Kevin Hart. We got Noah Maier. I think we win.
I think we do too. Mike, where can people find out more about updates, more about when we're posting episodes, more about feeling good?
I think they can feel good by checking us out on our socials at FeelGoodPod. That's at FILLGOOD pod. You can also email us at feelgoodpodcast@gmail.com if you want to let us know who we should interview next, who we should reach out to. If you have that one amazing friend that you just can't shut up about, let us know. We'd love to talk with them.
We've got some more amazing guests coming up in the future, but we want to know who you think we would have a fun time with and talking
who we can
to them.
Jive with.
Exactly. You can listen to, you've already been listening to us. If you got here, I'm pretty sure you know where to listen to us, but
where else can they listen to us at?
We can be listened to on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. I think even YouTube, if you're that desperate.
Maybe. Let us know if we should do YouTube.
Yeah, you got us, and we will be there. And we love you.
We love you very much. And we are going to be trying to think of a fun outro saying, but if you guys have fun outros that you think that we should say, leave it in the comments. And
we'll realize that's going to be our outro from now on. If anybody has an outro, then please let us know what the outro is. It's just, I feel like the more meta we get, the more subscribers we may get. We're never going to figure this out, people. For you. It's for you.
It's for you. It's not for us. But until next time, guys, just stay classy, stay beautiful. Just keep doing what you're doing. And we'll catch you next time.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Keep being amazing.
Yeah, that.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Take care.